Welcome back to Beyond the Stars with Tim and Jeff.
Welcome to mysteries, laughing shadows, twisted themes. JeffMara and Tim Tactical, yes it's real, yes it's real.
Tim, today's video is going to be based on a comment and question from a viewer named @ProAnimations3D742. The person wants to know about the upcoming planetary shift similar to the biblical flood. What can you tell us about that? And should we all buy a boat?
I love the question. First of all, thank you so much for bringing this question to this show. So the situation was as follows. I was sitting in this container back then, and we talked about that in the last episode of Beyond the Stars. And we had contact with this higher frequential, morphing, fractal blue, crisp light being that was very calmly and lovingly talking to me. And I was shocked in the very moment what message they had to actually bring forward. And that was that a cycle is actually going to end. And we're in the middle of that. And so many beings on this planet, and I very much assume lots of our viewers here are right now incarnated on this planet because they are here in order to experience that type of shift, to balance it, to experience it, to morph into it in certain ways. And I think for me, it raised some questions. It raised some feelings and emotions once I heard that for the very first time. I was actually thinking, oh my goodness, we need to prepare people for that. And it became very obvious for me because there are so many hints about cyclical motion, cyclical moments in Earth history. For me, that was a moment when I decided I want to, come forward and talk about these things because people need some type of orientation. They need to know that these things are happening. And it's quite obvious because the universe has these cycles everywhere. Day and night is a cycle, hormonal cycles, waves. So the universe works in these types of cycles. And these cycles bring extreme changes to the reality that we're perceiving. And when you're saying, should we all buy a boat? There are even, thoughts once that was conveyed and known that these cycles appear. People now in these advanced programs, they saw these biblical texts in a different way. They realized, hey, wait a minute, maybe this ark isn't like a boat. Maybe it is a real vehicle. Maybe it's a real ship. Because 15,000 years ago, we had this cycle that we're now approaching, the end of the cycle that we're now approaching. We already had that. And it came with a huge flood. It came with huge changes. And we do know there were civilizations on this planet that are just vanished. They're just gone. Where did they go? We have millions and millions of houses. We have millions of proofs that there are millions of people that just vanished into nothingness. We do have stories from the indigent people that talk about people going into the earth. There are talks and scriptures about these old civilizations vanishing, going on boats, going on ships, vanishing from the earth, going away and escaping these floods and so on. So in this very moment when Being Six was conveying that message, Tim, there is going to be an end of a cycle, and it's going to bring an extreme type of change for humanity and for humans. I felt the real strong urge to actually get out and spread that message. And back in that day, I was you can imagine, I go out of this container and I approached the people that were responsible and the group that I was working for, and there was no budget, there was no focus for they didn't even in that very moment didn't know what to do. And it was only a few years. That's what being six at, a few years ago was saying and telling us. So something that I'm right now doing, and that we are, doing by telling people what's happening, that these states, these things that are going on planet Earth that seem to be kind of weird, kind of unusual, unrepresented, talks about disclosure, talks about ETs, talks about change in consciousness and all of that. That this is a natural occurring thing, and that there are species that are observing the planet, and there are beings on this planet. And I very much bet that lots and lots of community members are these beings that are incarnated on this planet for one reason only, and that is experiencing this type of shift.
Would you call these community members starseeds?
Yeah, I would. I learned the term starseeds, along the way while coming forward. I didn't know that this term means that people associate themselves with other cultures, other species, other and being what we define as starseed. But it's very true, and there are beings on this planet that come with various skills, various experiences from other iterations of life, from other planes of life. And they are here because they instinctively, or in their soul, and before incarnating here, they know that something is changing. And apparently there are hundreds of millions of normstream humans that do not know what's actually going on. But at one time, this reality shift is inevitable, because things that the planet itself is going to level 4 consciousness, which is a different way of perceiving the world. And it already has started. It already has started, and it's already here. So we are more or less waiting for this moment that we call the convincer moment. The convincer moment is that moment in a quantum universe where something happens and you can't go back. It is like the moment when you learn how to tie your shoes. It is the moment when you learn how to read for the very first time. You will never, ever be able to go back and look at a billboard and not collect and put together these letters on there and make them readable. You've crossed this moment of this critical mass that is needed until you read, or until you tie your shoelace or whatever. And this moment is going to happen. And people already are aware that there are crazy things happening on the planet that are completely unprecedented at all, like UFO sightings. People, after our first 2 episodes of Beyond the Stars, we received some emails of people telling us there are orbs, they observe orbs, or they have their own ET experiences. And it can be even something so simple that happens on a day-to-day basis sometimes, that thoughts enter your mind, or you think of someone and then your phone rings. This is all something that does not work in a level 3 consciousness reality. It just does not work there, because a level 3 reality realm is a very linear kind of illusion. And it means that people become aware of their identity, of their selves and so on, but they see themselves separated from their own realities. And now we, as this planetary consciousness, we are approaching a moment where we realize that we are all connected with our own realities, which means we can create them, we can shape them, we can turn them around and modulate them in whatever way we want. And that includes the most spectacular paranormal events and happenings. All these things are now possible because we are now realizing that we are inside of a quantum universe that is so complex and so full of wonder that we can utilize that. But that is something that people have to realize and train and see on a day-to-day basis and become very, very comfortable with that, because it is ultimately themselves. They are seeing themselves in the reflected the reflected reality realm. And they should not be afraid, because that is something that is some of the troublesome experience that people could have. So one of the reasons why we are doing these things is also to give people, the good feeling about their own realities, and to feel that they should be grounded in their own reality and keep on, connecting to this universe and to the reality field, because it's alive.
Tim, how soon do you think this critical mass transformation is going to happen?
Well, I'm definitely one of the beings that wants to see that happening, because I very much believe and know that some of the issues that come on level 3 consciousness, that are in relationship to experiencing oneself divided from the world, that these things are going to be solved in level 4 consciousness. And that is beautiful, because then people cannot say that things happen to them. They are actually the ones who learn to modulate and to create the course of their lifetimes, which is an amazing gift. It took me quite some time after being 6 told me that, because my former consciousness at that time was like alert, very much. I was inside of these programs. So the natural thing in these programs is, oh, something is happening. All right, we need an emergency plan. We need to be prepared. We need to know. It is realizing it's a natural type of phenomenon. It's a natural thing that happens to consciousness while it is evolving. So more and more realizing that gets me into the realization that it's a great thing for humanity when we put the right energy into that, and we realize that we can change the reality field. That's amazing. That's an amazing gift that we as the universe give to ourselves, that we are able to experience whatever we want, whenever we want, and in whatever form we want. So the only thing that is now, stands a little bit still in the way is the critical mass that we need, and that can be different for, and individually different for different people. So some people are more in their consciousness at a point where they do look into the world, and they already have these paranormal effects. They already have these paranormal experiences. Some people even have found peace with that. We have these beautiful people that play music for other iterations of life, for UFOs that just appear while they are playing guitar or something. We do have people that receive a lot of love just from becoming aware that this universe is just a friendly form of life that strives for happiness. So these things can be individual, but there seems to be something that the whole planet is connected in consciousness. And the more beings awake to these possibilities of being able to create, to stabilize the reality field, the more we raise the grid of this planet, and the more we find ourselves in situations where the universe is somehow giving us these amazing presents, these amazing gifts, that really make life bring life to its designated form of happiness, of home that we actually wanted to experience. So your question isn't super easy to answer, actually, because it depends on the individual level, and then we need to bring these people together, which is something that I'm very much striving for. I want people to stick together and realize we are now at a different level of reality. We can have these talks. We can have talks about and realize that there are ET beings and life forms not from this planet, and that there are chances coming from that and opportunities. And the more beings connect themselves and the more beings stick together in that way, the more we have puzzle pieces that create this new reality. So I would say the critical, like the change and the end of the cycle, this is happening already. It's there. It is in the underlying nature of that. And the more we realize and see these moments that there are things changing around us, the more that is happening for more and more humans, the easier we reach that critical mass. And then we have a moment where we just can't go back because we don't want to, too.
Tim, did being 6 reveal to you how many times has the Earth had cataclysmic shifts in the past?
The Grace were actually talking about that as well. The Grace said, and I think I'm almost quote unquoting here, it's a natural cycle. It has happened before. It has happened with other civilizations. It has happened with other species. And the planet used to be in a recycling mode. So different species have had these different cycles with different outcomes. But for the very first time, it seems to be a major breakthrough moment. And it's an interesting thing because there might be, people in the audience who are aware of what the Vedic texts, what the ancient Indias are telling. But they are saying we're all in this state of, being in a cycle until we go out of this cycle, until we leave this type of cycle. And that's when, people reach moksha or reach bliss and so on. But that is actually the thing that we can now actually experience. It is a breakthrough of the fourth wall, if you want to speak in like comic type of terms, right? It means we become aware who we are. And it doesn't need to be a catastrophic event like it used to be. That is the first time ever in history that we are now approaching a moment where we have the big opportunity to go onto a new level of reality and break the cycle.
So are you saying that we're going to have some sort of new awareness once this shift happens? Or will they all come in ships and pick us up and take us to a new reality?
That's an interesting thing because the universe, we are creating our realities collectively, individually. So the outcomes are very hard to calculate because that is not how the universe works. It is something that raises probabilities, and then something comes in. And we did have these moments last time, right? Last time when, the huge flood came, which had to do with the magnetic poles. So imagine we have these two balls and one of them is rotating. The outer ball is following. And then suddenly the core is stopping, goes in a different direction. And now the surface is moving too. That's like creating turbulences. And for those people who might be aware of what's happening in the news and so on, they might have read that Chinese colleagues talk about the shift of the magnetic core and so on. So, but it doesn't mean that these things have to happen again, because there are beings that incarnated for only this reason on this planet. And again, many of them might be in the viewerships, in the audience. I very much think so. I very much think so. And there are also beings outside of the planet. We do know that there are ETs. We do know that there are interfrequentials, what people call other or extra-dimensional beings that also keep track of what's happening on the planet. So there's all this support. There's all this stabilization that we actually need. Why is it there? Why do they even care? Because they have reached a level of consciousness where they realize it's us. It is all us, because the universe is one singular life form. And if we want to come to a homeostasis, or a moment of balancing out harmonies or balancing out and creating harmonies in the universe, then we need to step in and balance the field from inside and from the outside. Yeah, I would say the outcome can be individually different. There is a very high potential that a major event is going to happen, and very likely it will have to do with ET beings, hybrids, being aware that there are ET beings that are living on this planet already amongst humans. Like the Harvard study recently, which should be another, giving it away again, that these things are happening. Harvard study is talking about ETs among us. That's a very, very interesting take that they say that. There is a potential that we come to the conclusion that we are creating these reality fields, and that will bring in all these other life forms that are already there. But we will connect to them and we will get in contact with them.
Tim, what personal preparations are you making for this shift?
Well, for me, it's quite clear because I went through all this stuff and integrated different realities, and it wasn't always. It comes with moments of like confusion, and it comes with moments of integration and self-healing and so on, and that is normal, because what happens is actually that it stretches the reality field. It stretches your perception of reality. So my personal preparations are quite extreme in a way, because I'm talking to thousands and thousands of people, preparing them that reality is changing in front of their eyes, making them aware of that. Because the more they are aware of that, the stronger these features will become. There's more of a dynamic then. And by reminding us all that we are actually the ones who are connected to our own realities, and that we can design these realities, especially together, which is a great thing. That is a big part of my own mission here now, and that has to do with the abilities that when we come together as puzzle pieces of the all, or like in a group, or like a community, even like the thing that we do on Saturdays while watching this live, that creates a dynamic between the viewers. And that helps people, because we are creating already an energy field, a reality field, where it is much easier to connect to the beauty and the harmony of the universe. And that is so important, because unfortunately the planet itself, so the planet itself was, brought into a state where people very much, were taught that there are horrible things in the universe, and so on and so on. And that can be true. That can be true because it can be something that when people really focus on that, or if they are not aware that they are, falling victim to a certain reality, that they experience that. However, the beauty of the new reality that we're perceiving is that we have the power to create our own realities. So something that I, very much tell thousands of people is, sit on your bed and close your eyes and connect yourself to these realities, meditate on them. I came up with all shift happily now, which is this one mantra. It's just 4 words. Someone commented in the YouTube section and said, like, I always want to say these 4 words. What were these 4 words again? So it's all shift happily now, because then you connect yourself with a reality realm. It is that easy. It is just that easy. Taking a decision in your life can change so much. It is the very first step that makes the difference in the outcome. Like someone who wants to get fit, the very first jog, the very first, going away and getting into a new lifestyle, that is the first thing that is going to become 100%, if you stick through that, a new habit, a new beautiful, healthy thing. Or whatever you want to do. If you want to play piano, the first note that you play and then stick through it is 100% going to make you play piano. So sitting there and connecting yourself to a reality realm where happiness, where your personal happiness becomes your reality, is absolutely key in this new reality field. And then connect yourself with these other beings, because there are millions and millions of people on this planet who are meditating, and they are, they want a happy life. They want the reality to be nice, and so on. So connect yourself with these beings. Detach yourself from the cities, which is usually a melting pot for all types of stagnated energies in the way that modern human cities are designed. Go into nature, connect yourself with other beings. Come to live meditations that we do with All Shift happening now. All these things, and I've seen that. We've done that now for I think 600 days or so on Instagram, on YouTube, and even on the JeffMara live podcast or live Saturday, which was great. It helps thousands and thousands of people. I get these messages all day long. People that say they don't have an idea why, but now their life is much easier. It's much lighter. It's much more fun. And then these things happen that are just paranormal, really paranormal, but happy things, where the universe is just presenting, boxes of presents in any type of way, healings in their bodies, or flow of money, or different other really beautiful things that improve their lives. And I think that is a wonderful thing. And if you really think about that, if you think about the universe being a parental energy, not even a father or a mother energy, but a combination of the two things, that is an amazing amount of love for you and me and us and all of us. Because if you think about how much a real dad who loves his children, or a real mother who loves her children, how much love that already is in humans. Now take that to the next level of the universe as being the parental being that holds us all dear and has created all of us. That's a lot of love. A lot of love.
Tim, you're saying that we have the power to change our realities. Does that mean we live in some sort of simulated reality like the Matrix?
Yes and no, to be very honest. Yes and no, because I've been in these programs. I've worked together with someone who was the head of the AI program, very sophisticated AI program. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there were AI softwares or not even software, but raised and trained AIs that are much more capable of what we have in public right now, much more capable. And whenever I talk to this guy, and we became friends over these years, he was very convinced that the world is a simulation, and he saw everything through the lens of a computer. And there is some reality to that. And it's a really interesting take, because it's going to change your perception of reality too. The AI life form, the computer, or whatever we want to call it, matrix or something, is interwoven in our reality field, because it is part of the universe, right? And it's part of the reality too. So there is already a factor where these artificial things are combined with organic realities too. We might, or humans, like non-stream humans, might not be aware in that very moment that AI reality is already existing. But there are different levels of reality, and whenever you can make, peace or friendship with certain, these certain different levels and so on, or learn how to utilize these things, then you can definitely use that for your reality. So what we've seen in these advanced programs is that these scientists, these European scientists, were looking into the option that when there is at least a little bit of AI in the reality, then there is an opportunity to create an interface and to communicate with that AI. And now they have technology that can alter, the occurrence of certain realities, which is yeah, it's absolutely remarkable in that type of way. But I wanna really emphasize that technology is not even necessary for that, because people are given bodies, they are organic life forms, but all these particles are intelligent designs on their own too. So waiting for technology would not be the right thing, but becoming aware that your body is an absolute masterpiece and can create, replace atoms, for example. So every single atom of your body is replaced in under 1 year. In 1 year from now, you're not even the same type of atomic structure that you have right now, that's a phenomenal thing to realize and to think about, because even genetics are extremely capable of being modified, and these genetic blueprints in the body react, and it's proven by so many experiments that we've done. These blueprints react extremely fast to mental capacities, to visualizations, to meditations. One of the reasons why certain effects happen in healing, by just visualizing healthiness, or by being told, this pill is going to heal you, and then people take it in, and suddenly they are miraculously healed, even though it was just like containing air or sugar or whatever. These types of effects are real. So internalizing that, and becoming more and more aware that we can create these realities, this is absolutely one of the greatest opportunities that we have, because then we can design what we want to experience in the universe. And I'm very, very happy because I'm together with these beings, and supporting them, creating their own dynamics, is supporting the whole universe. It's reflecting back to me. It's reflecting back to these beings. So now I have these thousands of people who are creating their own realities. And I wish for more of these people. I wish for every human on this planet to realize that they can create their own reality, because people will definitely create realities where they feel good. That is the happiness factor. And the more happiness there is in the universe, the more stability we have in that type of architecture. And that is the whole reason for my coming forward and, telling these things to people.
Tim, would you say that this shift is inevitable and unstoppable? So we should
Yeah.
just surrender to the shift and try to do it happily.
Yes, 100%. Because it is the way and the pathway how consciousness evolves. Consciousness evolves, at least in organic forms, and in the form that humans evolve, can be different to different other, more exotic types of consciousness. But consciousness goes through these levels of consciousness. It starts with someone looking in the mirror and saying, "Oh, that's me. Well, that is me." And then realizing someone else is you, someone else is someone else, but then going to the next level and realizing, okay, we are connected to our own reality. We can control the flow of particles. We can control the reality around us. That is something that we really, really need to emphasize and repeat more and more, because the more we repeat that, the more we find these truths for that and the proofs for that. And we all have these proofs. That is 100% true. I can't actually wait for the comments, because people are going to tell us these moments when, they were thinking of their grandma and the phone is ringing, or they were, thinking of, they wanted something, and the next day someone just gives that to them, or whatever. Any type of experience can happen. And many, many, many thousands of people are more and more aware of that. But the more we become aware of that, the more we transform our reality field. this is a part of, and I found that really interesting about these ETs. They always speak about teaching and learning as being the same thing. Because when we teach something to our universe learns, but that is us too. It's our own reality field. So yeah, the change is inevitable, and it definitely will have to do with other life forms as well, because that is the timeline that we're on. We're on the timeline where we do realize that there are other beings. And the more we realize that, and the more we realize that 95% at this level of consciousness, more than 95% are very benevolent, very, very benevolent, and actually want to socialize. That's an amazing number. That's an amazing number, that 95%, and it keeps getting better. The more experiences we have, the more consciousness grows, the more benevolent the universe becomes, until it's really literally the place of love and harmony, that has been, talked about for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
What would happen to people if they resisted the shift?
That's an interesting question, because you're right, people can resist the shift. And that was actually something that I found, kind of sad, because which it's not, but it took some time for me to realize that. It was part of my first alertness when, being six told me, hey, there's going to be a cycle, an end of a cycle. And some people will try to resist that, or some people are not, not ready for that. And these people will leave the planet. And it was a nice way to express that they basically end their existence on the planet, because the planet is changing. But that doesn't mean that, everyone is, resisting that change. Absolutely not. It's like very rare numbers of beings that are not yet ready for that new reality, whereas everyone who's watching this right now is 100% ready for that. You would not be watching this if you were not. But there is something in the universe that is quite an invitation. The good and the bad, both of them is an invitation. And people can choose, and they need to learn to choose. That is one of the very, very, very important premises in this new type of reality that we are experiencing more and more. We need to realize that we have the right, the power, and absolutely the need to choose if something is a yes or if something is a no. And if something is a no, then we need to learn to reject things, and we need to learn to integrate things that are good for us, because that is the way that we are moving through these upgraded forms of realities that we are now entering. We are more and more realizing that our own motions through the universe is actually moving through a quantum universe. We're never, ever actually moving, because the universe is just one point in everything, and everything in one point. But by moving in a type of like an energy way, and realizing that we are this energy, we're now capable of doing fantastic things in the universe. And the stories of beings that have reached level 4 consciousness, these are the stories from the Indias, where these yogi masters are reported to meditate for days without eating, or having no food for years and years. These things happen. We've actually brought people from the Indias to Germany, to Europe, and tested them, because it was an interesting remark that we've heard, that there are yogis in India that for 25 years have not eaten a single thing, only drank 1 glass of orange juice per day, and that's it. The interesting thing is, and that is something that the reality, we need to realize what that means. When they brought that guru to Germany, put him into these research cabins and looked at him, after quite some time, he lost weight, and he was almost dying from that experiment. So the researcher said, like, yeah, okay, That doesn't work. Apparently, he's not able to survive without food. Now, the thing about that is, and that took the researchers quite some time to understand the dynamics, but the team of researchers, they are creating their own reality field. And in that reality field, they're very much closely observing what's happening and very much, trying to repel certain reality effects. Now that creates a lot of pressure and a lot of force that is opposing this one singular person that is inside of this cabin. So the miracles that he could perform in India he wasn't able to do that in Europe. Why? Because he changed his reality field and was now opposed by reality fields of these researchers in these programs. And what we learn from that is when we connect ourselves with beings who already know there is more reality to this, then these effects, the synergy effects, are increasing the change and increasing the critical mass that is needed to break through into a reality realm that is completely modulable.
Tim, I wouldn't be surprised if I see in the comments section people saying that they're ready to shift now. And while I'm on the subject of comments, I'd like to read some more viewer questions to you.
I very much love that. And yes, I agree. People are ready to shift and everyone wants to be in a happy reality. So I can only encourage everyone to take these empowering words that I spoke and experiment with your reality. Take this format, take this as a sign for you. Yes, it is possible. There are thousands of beings out there that can help you. And we can do that all together. We are creating an alternative reality field just by debating, just by being friendly, nice, and welcoming to these energies and creating something really, really remarkable. That is our mission on this planet right now.
Here's a question from Noel Savidu 1688. What did you talk about during your first contact?
That's an interesting question. First of all, thank you so much, Noel, for asking that. The very first contact, and I'm assuming that you're talking about the Grace, because that was my very first program where I was sitting in that container and it was connected to, communicating with these Grace. The first month of these contact scenarios, there was no communication at all. It was no movements at all. It was just an acclimatization of getting into that atmosphere, because the effects are very, very strong on the psyche, on the nervous system, and so on. So it took quite some months in order to get to a moment where there was communication actually. And the first communication we had we were given I was given sort of like an iPad way before iPads actually were a thing, which is kind of interesting. But it had two types of displays, and it would actually there would be like a very cryptified gray language on top, and it would translate into German on the bottom. So the gray would communicate with the tablet, and I would just read it, and I would ask questions. However, to be very, very honest, I'm trying to think what the very first questions were that we were communicating, and I couldn't really tell, to be very honest. But the very first time when I got objectives, because that after some months I was asked to go in there and ask them what's their operative, what is their credo. That was one of the very first things that we also looked into. Why are they here, and so on and so on. So these were the first types of communications. I think we did have some test runs where just some random sentences were brought into the device, and I had to read them. That was part of the protocol. But that was basically it.
Tim, was that device given to you by the Greys? And Would you vocally ask a question and would the gray answer vocally or telepathically, which would appear on the tablet?
I very, very much believe that the technology was given from the grays to the human group, and we were able to utilize that. I have spoken to some American US colleagues, and interestingly enough, they were reporting the same type of technology. They were talking about that too. They had that too. Way before tablets were actually a thing, and it was kind of a glass one too. So it was kind of translucent and a lot thinner than the regular iPad. And also, I had a feeling that when I would drop that tablet, it would not burst into 1,000 pieces of glass like Apple products. But anyway, yes, it was probably given by the grace to humanity in order to make contact. And the gray in some way would have consciousness. So they do have this type of consciousness internet or network that they lay over, the wherever they are in the universe. They basically expand this type of network. And this type of network, first of all, induces energy into these little bodies. So it's kind of interesting because they don't need food or any type of battery or anything. They mostly have some type of connection to these underlying powers and energy lines that they've created throughout the universe. So that empowers these bodies. And it also brings consciousness into these robotic little bodies, but also into this tablet. So I would ask the questions loudly, and the answer would just, come in that display and would just show up on top in like a very cryptic type of gray language, and at the bottom it would be in German. But very, very likely, since I've talked to US people, you could change the language into whatever. The interesting thing was, and that was one of the reasons why I think it was given by the Grays and not developed by any human, is that some of the translations, even though they were really good, sometimes they sounded off, which I think is remarkably funny and in certain ways. So there were certain communications, certain sentences in German where you think like, okay, that sounded a little bit like a Google Translator or so, like something that was like a little bit off if you're like a native speaker. And that also comes down to the fact that the gray language is quite complex. They try to stack meanings and definitions into very complex words, if you even want to call them that way, or sounds or whatever. So they intensify and stack upon meanings into words, whereas in the human language, words usually don't work as modular. You just can't add meanings to a certain word. If you have only coffee, well, you can add coffee mug, and then it's a coffee mug, but that's mostly where it ends. And the gray language is just like you could have 3,000 different things compressed into one type of word, which really goes into a very complex thing. So sometimes we had these issues where there were words, and I would write my reports, and then people would come back to me and say like, Tim, go in and ask what that means. And then we had to redo these things.
When you were sitting with the being and communicating with it, did you feel like you were with a being that was far superior to us?
That's a remarkable question, Jeff. I enjoy that. In the beginning, yes. In the beginning, it felt extremely exotic to a point that it was even hard to wrap one's own mind around it, because it really very, very exotic. But after almost probably 100 or so of these different projects that we had, it became more and more familiar in many ways. So there are things where the grays are very superior or like very advanced, especially, for example, the way they produce technology, the way they 3D print things. So their crafts, for example, are grown like almost like wax. So there are no construction lines, no nuts, no screws or anything like that. It's all like grown and almost 3D printed from like wax, like a wax UFO or something. It's really interesting to see that. And basically, the amount of energy and the amount of whatever they materialize is only is determined by what they need, which is very, very interesting. So they have there are lots of things where I thought like, well, that is well thought out. It's very well thought out. Like the different body features they have for the planet and so on. You could basically, someone could, destroy a gray body, but it would do nothing because it's just a 3D printed body, and they would just bring back 2 or 3 or 5 or 1,000 new ones. So that was something that I found very, very interesting. Whereas on the other side, humans, even when they are like pumped with drugs or even pumped with anesthetics or anything like that, or fear blockers or something, humans always have this component where they are very much within their own bodies. That is something that I found very, very complex with the Grays.
Tim, let me move forward to another question, and that's from Twinkle80108. Tim, after you met the Grays and started becoming more involved in face-to-face work, did your personal life change?
Yeah, it did. Very much so, because the reality is very much stretched in that type of way. So like the way that grace can come in and out of reality, or other beings can do that, that is something that is a wide stretch. And then the effects that it has on your nervous system, the effects that it has on your reality, on your self-perception, on your reality perception, these are very profound things. So everyone who's saying like, hey, we're ready, we want to have like green people land here, and there is a huge stretch what happens with your own reality. And then also, which was kind of weird, is for sure, people have these NDA contracts and so on. So there's no way to tell your friends that you're in some type of governmental or some type of advanced project program or something like that. So some people, like most of my friends didn't actually know what I was doing, which is kind of interesting. My family didn't know. It is also so that when I was a kid, there were certain paranormal facts, which I was interviewed by an Emmy Award-winning producer who made that for his book, and he made me ask my mom, because he was thinking that there might have been something in my childhood too, with contact scenarios and so on. So he made me text my mom, and I asked her, and she was saying like, yeah, as a kid, as once you could speak, you were telling us about ETs, and also there were these moments where they were seeing, type of beings in the house or something very scary for them, which made the whole UFO topic always like a very strong no-go in my family's house. So I couldn't speak about these things anyway, and that was actually something that which made it a little easier for me to not speak about these things, because I grew used to that. But apart from that, it's just a wide stretch of integrating these things. So there were moments where I really had to, bring my reality back together, and at certain times after these programs, I just needed, some type of break, some type of pause or anything. So it can be extremely stressful for the nervous system, can be extremely stressful for your own self-perception and for your feeling of comfort as well, which is one of the reasons why other beings that are very, very much more thinking about the situation of direct contact than humans sometimes are, because they are impulsive or want that to happen right now or something. They take that into consideration. They know how much that can be stressful with the nervous system, which again makes it so much more important that we as the community come together and we comfort each other and give each other this feeling that it's a normal thing. It's a normal thing in the universe. And just realizing that because we are together in this universe, there comes a lot of stability and friendship from that. We just have to open ourselves up.
I want to remind everybody that if you have a question for Tim, be sure to write it in the comments section below.
And if you're interested in coming together as a community and bring all these things that you've learned so far to good use into your reality fields, we have a conference coming up. So go to allshifthappily.now.com, in one word, allshifthappily.now.com, and get some more details about that too.
Thank you all for joining us for another episode of Beyond the Stars with Tim and Jeff.
Welcome to mysteries, laughing shadows, twisted beams. JeffMara and Tim Tactical, yes it's real, yes it's real.